So everyone, and welcome to the first real part of my developer diary for BoostBoy. Now, as you might see right now, of course, the graphics are still literally placeholders, of course, because graphics is something that happens later. I don't really care too much about that, because, in case you haven't watched part 0 of this, I didn't even know if I called it part 0 or part 1, but I did another part before this, and if you didn't watch that, basically, I'm working on a game called BoostBoy, and I'm doing these developer diaries mostly just as a motivation to keep me going, because when I tell myself, hey, I have to make a developer diary every now and then I know, oh, okay, there are certain points where I will need to show you guys something, and so that's actually really big motivation for me to keep going, because otherwise I think I would have not find the right motivation to do stuff. But I've had a lot of inspiration going recently in the last few weeks, and I went and I basically made a simple version of the movement system that I want to have. Now, BoostBoy, the game I'm making, is basically going to be a game all about movement. Now, it's a 2D jump platform, as you can see, but I want to make sure that really most of the stuff that happens is all tied to movement. One of the mechanics that I have in the game is the boosting. Right now there's no graphic for it, but right now I'm not actually jumping, I'm boosting upwards. I'm boosting left, it can boost right, left, up. If I'm in the air, I can boost down. Boost diagonal as well, no problem. That's basically the idea behind it, and I want to make sure that you have some sort of momentum system going, where I have this idea. Actually, I don't know if I can show some stuff right now, but I have some notes on some abilities that I want to put into the game. And all of these abilities that I put into the game, I thought to myself, well, everything that I do needs to feed into the idea that momentum is the name of the game, and movement, more importantly, is what keeps you entertained in the game. So I have some, whoops, okay, you can't see that's good, because I'm blocking the screen right now with something. I have some ideas on what I want to do with some abilities, and basically, I also want to have some combos. Now, what do I mean with combos? If you haven't watched the other part yet, basically this is a dual stick jump run where you have your stick that just moves your guy, and then you have a stick that boosts the guy. And if you have certain combos, like let's say you move right, but you boost backwards, which right now just looks like this, it doesn't really do much. Or more importantly, if you go right and you boost diagonally down left or diagonally down right, which right now is nothing, that, for example, would be a combo to trigger like an action roll. And that action roll would have like invincibility frames on it, so you could do like rolls, for example. Or if you could do that in midair, for example, by doing some stuff. I don't know if you could do it in midair yet, actually. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've already come up with, and all the stuff that would fit into movement. And one of the upgrades that you would get is, well, first off, there's a system that I want to somehow get into the game, which is like momentum conservation. I want to make that like actually a thing that is a mechanic in the game to conserve your momentum. Like most platformers, of course, you have some sort of momentum conservation. Like let's say you're going really fast down a hill. Most platformers, you'll just jump and you'll keep that momentum and you'll jump downhill with really fast momentum. Most platformers have that, but I want to make that like a system where I tell the player like, hey player, this is actually a thing in the game, and you can do some cool stuff if you know how to do it. So what I thought is, you can boost in 8 directions, and I thought to myself, all of the directions are like 45 degrees from each other, and if you are boosting within only like 45-degree changes, you will keep all of your momentum. But if you boost further away, if you boost towards the right, and then you instantly boost up, which is a 90-degree change in boosts, then you would lose your forward momentum, for example, something like that. But if you boost like right and then diagonally right and then upwards and then diagonally left upwards, then you would keep all of that momentum and you would go really fast. And as an upgrade of that, you would maybe get an ability where each time you do a momentum, I call it momentum conservation, I don't have a name for that yet, but every time you do one of those momentum conservation boosts, what it would do is you would get a tiny bit of more speed. So maybe there's like some sections set up where the stage is set up in such a way that you're kind of being pushed to kind of do that. Like maybe you walk along the ground and then there's a wall. So you basically, the game is telling you, you boost along the ground, boost diagonally up into the wall, and then you boost upwards along the wall. So then you have 3 boosts, all have 45-degree angle changes. You keep up the momentum, and then you can jump away from the wall with another 45-degree angle change, and then you can boost left. So you've gone in like a U section, but you've kept all of that momentum, and you've also built some momentum, and then maybe after that there's a really long jump, and by using that momentum you can make that jump. Or maybe there's a ramp, and you ramp off and make a really long jump, something like that. And then some other stuff that I've thought about is maybe I want to have upgrades that change the way you interact with the world. Like maybe there's some water. Don't worry, there's not going to be diving. Maybe if you like diving, then sadly for you there's no diving. But I don't think the character that I want to play as should be able to dive, because he basically has rocket boosters strapped all over him. That's how he boosts. And if he goes underwater, he can't use them. So what can he do? I don't want to have underwater swimming section where you're not going to boost, and you could be like, hey, maybe there's an upgrade that allows you to boost underwater. Maybe that could be a thing in the sequel, if there ever is going to be one. I mean, I'm in the early stages of the first game, so I'm not even going to think about that. But for this game, I thought that, hey, that's fine. Water is an obstacle in this game instead of just another place where you can move around. So right over here, I have some water. It's not programmed in yet, so I can't actually show you anything about it. But, I mean, it doesn't look like water. I mean, placeholder, but still. So what I thought is, so when you fall into water, you can't boost. You can jump out of the water, and that's all you can do. But maybe there's an upgrade. So you would have just sections where you would maybe fall into water and you can jump out, and it would like maybe you would have to jump above some platforms, and if you fall down, you fall into water, you have to tread back to the start, a little bit of punishment for falling down, something like that. And maybe you could get an upgrade, and if you have the upgrade and you do a diagonal boost either into the water, or you do a boost like right on top of the water that is parallel to the water, you could do a water run, and you would run across the water, and you would have to continually keep boosting to keep running across water, and then you could jump out of that and be able to boost out of that, because otherwise all you can do is do a tiny hop out of water. But when you're water running, you can maybe do a jump, maybe even a double jump, maybe even into a boost out of water, and gives you a whole lot of movement abilities. To think how to interact with water, and then maybe there could be some puzzles where you have to fill a room with water or lower the water level to a place where you can then use some water running. Maybe there could be some stuff. I'm not gonna go full on puzzle, but because movement is gonna be so important in this game, and I want to create a game around movement, I think there should be some places where it's not just here's a stage and this is how you move around the stage. Like, look at this stage. This is how you move around the stage, blah blah. You can like do some jump and then do a boost over. Woo! You can't really see because there's no. But I'm doing a jump and then I'm boosting over to the end as well. You can maybe do some stuff here. I don't have double jump yet. But it's not just you have a stage in front of you and you move through it, but maybe you can interact with the stage in some ways. Maybe there's breakable surfaces where you get an upgrade that allows you to break some stuff, and then you can see that, hey, maybe there was just some ground here, and if I break this, maybe there's some wall below there, and I can do a wall run up the wall, and maybe there's an upgrade where if you wall run, you get a lot of speed, and you can like, oh yeah, maybe you do some momentum conservation. Maybe there's like below the breakable ground, there's a section where you can do momentum conservation with the momentum speed upgrade that I was talking about earlier, where you build up a lot of speed by going in a circle or something, and then you go towards the top where you originally broke the ground, and you can boost out of that and go to some really high places. I don't know. There's some stuff that I was thinking about. Breakable surfaces is just the basic stuff, but like I said, maybe you can interact with the stage, move some blocks around, not really like slow block pushing. I don't like slow stuff, but maybe you can move some blocks around. Maybe you can open some gates that you have to get to really quickly, but if the gate is closed, you can wall run up it. Hey, maybe there's a secret if you have a gate that's closed and you wall run up it and then find a secret place. Isn't that nice? All sorts of stuff, lowering water levels, doing stuff. I want to think about that. Maybe there's enemies. I'm gonna have enemies in the game, but once again, everything has to do with movement, so I don't want to have an enemy in the game that you have to stop for longer than like a second to kill. If possible, every enemy you should be able to either kill instantly while running past it, by doing some cool movement. Maybe you have to do a specific dash through it to kill it, or you have to bounce on it at a certain angle to kill it, but you could do it like really fast if you know how to do it, or you could run past it really quickly. Like maybe an enemy does require a little bit of thinking and maybe more than like 1 second to kill, but you can just run past it if you want to. Like I don't want to ever be a place in the game where you have to do like extended parts of fighting. Maybe there's a place where you have to like use, I don't know, the corpse of an enemy. I don't even know if I even want to go that far, but maybe where you have to manipulate some enemies. But I don't want to have like dedicated fighting arenas or something like that. I don't know. Maybe like bosses. I don't know if I have bosses, if I'm gonna have bosses, but yeah, bosses is like another thing where maybe how could I introduce movement and boosting and everything with bosses? That would be interesting. But yeah, as you can kind of tell, everything in this game has to do with movement. So what I've spent like the last month doing is mostly just thinking about what kind of movement system we want to have. So let's get into that a little bit after talking a bit about the basics that I wanted to have. So first off, with the controls, I've already talked about the dual stick. You have one button that jumps. Right now it's this button, but I mean, if you're dual sticking, then maybe you don't want to do the claw motion, so you could put like jump. I think I'm going to do this. Actually, I've done this already. You have jump on a shoulder button, no problem. And then, so the basic controls would be 2 sticks, a jump button, that's either A or sideways. You can play with keyboard as well. Since I'm only really thinking about 8 directions, you can totally do it with keyboard. You don't need more than 8 directions, and you can do 8 directions with keyboard, no problem. So another thing is, one button is a boost trigger. I don't know if I've talked about this in the last one already, but in case I didn't, one other button would be a boost trigger, where you can decide if you want to have the boost happen as soon as you flick the stick, or if you can flick the stick and no boost would happen, but then you would have to press like a trigger button to actually boost. So that would maybe be a thing that you could do, where you would have to, where you can decide, okay, do I want to boost immediately by pressing the stick, or do I want to boost by having to press a button first, something like that. So I would also have remappable keys apart from the sticks, because I mean, you can flip the sticks. I guess you could do that, but I mean, I'm not gonna support putting boosts on these buttons. I mean, you have like boost right, boost sideways. I mean, theoretically I could do it, but I don't even know if that's worth the effort. Maybe if someone, when I'm getting close to the release, maybe someone is like, hey, can I boost with the face buttons? And I'm like, I guess I could maybe remap those as well. But in theory, of course, the jump and boost trigger should be fully remappable, and the 2 sticks should be changeable, like swappable. I definitely want to have that, because I think nowadays we have the technology to not have to leave like left-handed people behind, or people who don't want to play, who don't want to control the game a certain way. Nowadays we have the ability to not let those people behind with not that much work. Come on, guys, we can do that. So the actual movement that I've settled on is, of course, we have the regular jump, and you might notice right now, if I'm just tapping the button, you don't actually go that high. But if I hold down the button, you see the jump is a bit slower, but it goes higher, which of course most 2D platformers have that, and it's the bare minimum. If we can't even do the minimum, what could we do? But yeah, of course we're doing the minimum, which is having the the jump controllable. Maybe I'm going to do the minimum height even less than this, I don't know yet. Or the maximum height even a bit higher, I don't know. I don't think there should be too much variance between the two, but it should still be significant enough that you can control if you want to do a hop or if you want to do a longer jump. Like a hop doesn't get you quite there, but a longer jump gets you even over it, so that's totally fine already. So that's one thing that you want to have in your platformer. Another thing is, of course, when you're jumping on a wall, you can see that you can, if you jump away from a wall, you can still cling to it and even keep climbing. Like you can climb on the same wall. That's mostly preference if you want to say, hey, I want to have 2 walls next to each other for the player to be able to climb it. Personally, I like it if you can climb on just one wall, and then I design the stages around that. I might make it a little bit harder to do that, or even completely take that out. I don't know just yet, but that's at least kind of what I was thinking about doing that. So yeah, that's that. Another thing that I was thinking about is when you won't be able to see this just visually, but when you go to a wall, you kind of stick to the wall a little bit, and if you press away from the, like if you stick on a wall and you press away from it, like I'm gonna press away as soon as I reach the wall, you can see that I don't actually instantly let go of the wall. Like I'm sticking to the wall for just a tiny bit after pressing to the right. So I'm pressing right as soon as I get stuck to the wall, or even if I'm like stuck to the wall a little bit already, and then I press right. You have to keep pressing away from the wall for just a little bit to actually detach from the wall. And the reason for that is it might sound counterintuitive at first, like why would you want to have walls to be sticky? So you stick to walls just a tiny bit and it's not actually that easy to get away from it. Like you have to actually hold away from it for like a little bit amount of time to get away from it. The reason for that is because just dropping off walls by holding away from it is not that important. You're gonna do it sometimes. Sure, sometimes you just want to drop from walls, so you hold away from it. But what's a lot more important is that you want to be able to wall jump off of it. And if you were to immediately detach from a wall, what would happen is you stick on a wall and you want to jump away from the wall with the maximum speed. So you press, like let's say on this wall, you would press right and then jump immediately. Some people press jump first and then right, but then you're not quite sure, am I getting the perfect speed to the right? Like you want to get the biggest jump away from the wall, and if I press jump first and then right, do I really get the biggest jump away? In my case, pretty much actually. For the most part, you would, like if you press it like one frame earlier from pressing right, you would still get a really good jump away from it. I can't quite time one frame, but if it's just one frame, it would still be right. If it's 2 frames, we're already talking about a big slowdown. As you can probably tell, I can't quite hit 1 frame, but if you hit 2 frames, you do get slowed quite a bit. Because I want to make sure that if you're not actually trying to jump away from the wall, like maybe you try to jump upwards or to the left, that it doesn't like rubber band you across the screen. I don't want to have that happen either. Like if you want to stay close to a wall, you can totally stay close to a wall if you want that. That's totally fine if you want to just stay close to a wall. Another thing is, yeah, so you stick out to walls a little bit, because in this way, if you want to get the perfect jump away from a wall, you can try and input right and jump at the same time. But if you input right first, it doesn't matter, because otherwise, like if I didn't have this, you would input right maybe 1 frame sooner than pressing jump, and you would just drop off the wall, and it would be really sad. But because wall jumps are so important, walls are sticky, which makes it a lot easier and a lot nicer to get a perfect jump off of the wall without having to worry about anything. Of course, I don't have any graphics on the placeholder right now, so it's not quite that simple to understand exactly how the well, the cling works. Because of course I would have a graphic like we have a graphic of a guy sliding against the wall, for example, and if he wasn't sliding against the wall, he would just have his normal like falling animation. So that's pretty much it about that. My basic ideas going into this. I'm basically gonna put like a lot of months into this. Like most of the time developing this game is probably gonna go into just making sure the movement system works fine. Like none of the stuff that I've shown you right now, just physics-wise or control-wise, might even make it into the full game. I don't even know. Because movement is so incredibly important in this game, I want to make sure that I spend a lot of time on it. I want to make sure the boosting feels alright, like also visually. Of course, right now it's just a plain solo, so you don't actually see anything. I've already put it in there that you can only boost once until you touch the ground or any surface again. So you can like boost up here, woo, because you keep touching surfaces. I've already thought about a bunch of stuff, but actually putting that into the game, it's not going to be as important as making sure that the core movement is going to be so incredibly important that all of that needs to just glue together so well. And this is what I'm going to be spending a lot of time now. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. I have a whole bunch of other stuff thought about, like with ramps and walls, and how you can control your momentum, but also how you can cancel your momentum if you want to, how you can change the way your character controls. But all that is going to be so important to get right that I'm going to spend a lot of time on it. And also something that I want to mention is, like last time I said I was going to use, I'm doing this in Java, on a specific engine, the Liti engine, L-I-T-I engine, which is still in its early stages of development. And I'm going to say that I'm basing this game off of that engine instead of just saying that I'm making this game with this engine, because I've already rewritten quite a lot of stuff in that engine. I mean, quite a lot of the core stuff. Like the actual engine has like a few tens of thousands of lines of codes, but I've taken some of the core stuff, like how input works. I've completely rewritten how input works in the engine. I've completely rewritten how the basic physics work. I've completely rewritten how inputs gets translated into movement, and the central classes that all control the movement have all been rewritten and thrown around. And I've done basically all the stuff that I've done right now is just rewritten the engine, because none of the stuff that I'm doing right now would actually work in this engine. Or maybe it could work with some really weird stuff, but all of the stuff that I'm doing right now, the way I'm controlling this, the way the physics work, and how all of those are linked together, that's all the stuff that I've like rewritten. So I'm gonna rewrite a lot of other stuff. I'm probably gonna rewrite the entire like spriting and animation stuff. I'm gonna rewrite a lot of the how maps are used and environments generated, and how map regions and map objects are defined. I'm gonna reprogram a whole lot of stuff of this engine. So in the end, I'm gonna have like my own engine, kind of, that's heavily based on Liti engine, but still has some very major rewrites. So when people ask me, I'm gonna be like, well, I didn't just use Liti engine, because when people see this, I'm gonna be like, hey, I used this engine, and then they use it as well, and they're gonna be like, hey, why can't I do the same stuff that you're doing, even though I'm using the same engine? I'm gonna have to tell them like, hey, I rewrote a bunch of stuff. So yeah. There's also a bunch of really questionable things in there. The engine is not perfect, of course. Made a few improvements here and there. Probably did a bunch of stuff here and there that maybe isn't actually an improvement at all, but fits my game better. And of course, it should fit my game better. That's the most important point of making my own game. So yeah, that was that. Let me check what my to-do list says next. Oh, improve this physics, improve collision, make states. Oh my god, so much movement and stuff. Oh, this is gonna take a long time to get right. I'm gonna do water stuff at some point. There's some minor animation mistakes. I don't know why like you can sometimes see that my character wiggles around a bit. I mean, I'm doing left, right, left, right, left, right, but it's still a little bit of wiggling. That's purely graphical. That's not actually the physics wiggling around. Like I've checked the internal values. They all line up. I don't know. I need to check out the animation and spriting routines, because I haven't actually checked those out yet. But yeah, that was that for this. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to do. Just in general, though, what I wanted to mention is with the movement system, like with the holding down A longer to jump higher, I want to make sure that the control system feels intuitive and nice to play, because in a 2D platformer, especially mine, which is focused on movement more than anything else, getting from point A to point B should feel as comfortable and enjoyable and also as exciting as possible. I want to make sure that when you just move through the stage, you're already having a blast. That is what my goal is with this game, and to that end, I will be making sure that all of the design decisions concerning the controls all fall under that, which was the main reason why I have the momentum conservation system. Well, I don't have it yet, but why I want to make it quite like that. So yeah, I'm the Reason Yellow. Thank you guys for watching this, and yeah, hope you guys enjoy this. See you next time.